Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Triple FAQ, which stands for Finally Fasting's Frequently Asked Questions. And today I am going to talk about maintenance. If there is one question that I see a lot of, it's, okay, you're doing these back-to-back 90-hour fasts. What happens when you hit goal weight or you hit body fat percentage goals or whatever? And because I'm getting close to that point, well, at least I think I'm getting close to that point. I don't really know if I'm that close, but I feel like it's coming. And even though I don't have a definitive answer just yet, I think I know the direction I want to go to. And it's not that difficult, I don't think. I think it'll be easier than just trying to lose the weight at this point. But for people who are wondering what maintenance is, it's pretty much how are you going to maintain that goal weight that you're at, that body fat percentage that you're at. And so I have a couple ideas on how I'm going to do this. And these are also probably just good tips in general in terms of fasting that might help you out. At the end of the day, we all have to understand that this is a lifelong process. I have lost over 80 pounds at this point. It's been 9 months. I think I'm 9 months into it now. Yep, over 9 months. And I have kept this weight off for a good amount of time. I mean, I'm still losing weight. And I don't think I've ever kept weight off for even 6 months. Maybe 3 months, but nothing longer than 6 months until now. Once I hit a year, those are completely new goals again too. But when I say a lifelong process, I mean not only keeping the fat off, but also trying to gain muscle at the same time, because I think my goals will start to change. So even though I talk about maintenance, I think that there is still a long road ahead in terms of not just losing the body fat, but gaining muscle on top of that. And that's kind of where I have to start looking at the scale and not taking it so seriously and realizing that if I'm going to start building muscle, that's going to start adding weight to the scale. And I have to find that differentiator of how much body fat I have versus how much muscle mass I gain. Yeah, I can't keep doing 90-hour fasts forever. I think some people are a little confused because they think I'm just going to stop fasting altogether. And that's not the case at all. So obviously I can't keep doing 90s because every single 90-hour fast I'm doing, I'm losing weight. Now, the only reason I know, and I've said this before, that 90s work for me is because it was a lot of trial and error. Back when I first started doing extended fasts, I just started doing like 36s and then 48s and then, bumping that up to like 72s or 65s and 90s and all the numbers. I did 168s at one point, and I did that 3 weeks in a row just to kind of test my limits and see where I was at. And the one thing that I noticed, so I'll share the story of how I got to that 90-hour time frame. When I had done all the different kinds of hourly fasts, I had noticed that when I did 48-hour fasts, I would gain weight just a little bit. I wouldn't gain a ton of weight, but I would gain just enough where it started to kind of show on the scale. And even though I know the scale doesn't mean everything, seeing an upward trend on the scale isn't, what I wanted to see. After the 48s, I started doing 65s. And this is during my trial and error experiment. Well, not really an experiment, just a way to see how I lose weight at what kind of time interval, also dependent on how I ate, because I really didn't change how I ate then. So everything that you've seen now in these episodes of Breakfast, all those 6,500, 7,000 calorie refeeds, that is still the way I ate back then. When I realized that 48s weren't really working for me because I was gaining a bit of weight, I started to do 65s. And just to modify, that number was just a nice even round number for me. What I noticed when I did 65s is I wouldn't lose weight and I wouldn't gain weight. So in my head, as I think about it now, that sounds like my maintenance number. Is that still my number today? I don't think so. I think it might be different at this point, just because when I was doing 65s back then, I was probably in the high 100s, maybe 190s or something. And I'm in the 130s now. And so a lot has changed since then. Apparently I can still eat a lot at this weight, but yeah, maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. So the only way that I'll know for sure if that's maintenance number is trying it. But I'm not just going to jump into it and just start doing 65s out of the blue. And I think a lot of people have been asking this question about like where my head is at when it comes to this. So the one thing that I want to share, which also might be helpful for people who have a hard time doing these longer fasts back to back, is at one point I did not. So I knew that 65s wouldn't make me lose weight, but I knew 90s would make me lose weight. So the one thing I started doing was I did do a couple 90-hour back-to-back. It's just at the time when I first started doing it, it was a little much for me. So I started to alternate my fasts. And this is what I want to share with you as well. And I think alternate fasting or alternate hourly intervals might be very helpful, especially if you're having a hard time hitting a higher number. So at one point it was at the point where I was pretty happy with my weight. And I think back then I was maybe in the 170s or so, and maybe high 160s. And what I started to do is I would do a 65-hour fast, and then I would do a 90-hour fast, and then a 65, and then a 90, and then a 65, and then a 90. And I noticed that I would lose weight. I wouldn't lose a ton of weight, but maybe every week I would lose about half a pound, and I never changed the way I ate. I still ate the same, and doing 65s and 90s was a slow way of losing weight, but it was consistent, and I didn't feel deprived. I didn't feel like it was difficult. It was really, I felt like I was able to maintain that kind of rhythm doing it. When I lose the body fat, I think my plan is to do that, is to ease back in to alternate 90s and 65s. So obviously, if I'm still losing weight, then and I'm already at the weight I want to be, and I don't want to lose any more weight, then maybe I will ease off the 90s and maybe do like a 65 and a 72, or just start doing 65s and see where I'm at. This is what I mean about a lifelong process, because just because the 90s work for me now to lose weight, just because the 65s and 90s worked back then, doesn't mean that it's going to work the same today. That could change. My eating could change, although it doesn't seem like it, but anything could change. And I think the one thing that we have to evaluate here is, or at least be aware of, is to be ready to be adaptable. Whether that is changing the hourly interval in our fasting, or tweaking the diet that we're eating, or doing both. Now, because I am not the best dieter, because I don't eat the cleanest, I have a better time, or at least an easier time, just regulating how many hours of fasting I should do per period. And so that is my maintenance plan, while at the same time trying to gain muscle. And that's something I'm working on right now and still trying to figure out. And I don't know if I figured that out completely yet, because I don't have a gym. Well, I haven't figured it out completely. I just do push-ups, and I need to start incorporating more into that. But I think that's a whole other ball game, is trying to figure out the whole muscle part, losing body fat or excess body fat, and trying to be okay with the scale. Like seeing it go up and telling myself, hey, that's not body fat that you're adding on, that's muscle you're adding on, and it's okay that the scale says that. I don't know. Those roads are about to meet, and when they do, I will be sure to share that with you. I get a lot of comments where people say, hey, I can't do those 90s, or I can't do X amount. It's just too much. I would say if you're having trouble doing that, then maybe I would suggest trying to ease in doing alternate hourly intervals. And before I go, I really want to add in that. So I was talking about doing 90s and then 65s and then a 90 again and then a 65. It doesn't have to be that way either. So say, for example, you're trying to break into 36s or 48s. And in your head, or when you're watching this, you're like, okay, yeah, I could do that. I'll do a 48 and then I'll do like a 24, an OMAD or something. And then I'll do another 48 and then another 24 or 23, whatever. So just because I'm alternating one number with the other doesn't mean you have to do that. You can flex it any way you want. And again, this is why I love fasting, because you can make it according to your rules. Let's say 48 is hard for you and you've just been doing 23s or 36s. Let's say, for example, you're doing 36s and you can't break that 48 because it's just too hard at this point. What you could do is, let's say you're ready to do a 48. You've been doing 36s, so you do a 36, then you do a 48. You can fall back into a 36, but if you feel like that next 48 is going to be hard for you, do another 36. So think of that. Think of it this way: 36, and then you do a 48, and then you do 2 more 36s, and then do another 48, and then 2 more 36s, or even 3 more. Again, I think the key here is you stay consistent. Make sure that you stay in that fasted state. And as long as you're comfortable and you don't feel like the world is on your shoulders about it, I think you'll be okay. But also remember that it's not always going to be easy. And sometimes we got to get through those hurdles to get to those, I guess, either higher intervals of fasting. Also, real quick before I go, I wanted to remind people to leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know about your progress. If you're new to this channel, please feel free to be a subscriber. I always try to engage with the community. I feel like that's really important, especially when we're trying to do these kind of fasts. I think it's good to have somebody to kind of talk to, someone to be accountable with. And, I feel like we have a pretty good community. I would encourage other people in the community to talk to the other people who are commenting as well. It's a good way to stay accountable, and it's a good way to, relate to somebody, make a new friend who is going through the same thing. Finally, before I go, I do want to mention that I do have a Patreon, and I wanted to thank my newest member, Keely Dean. Hopefully I said your name right, Keely. But I wanted to thank Keely for being the newest member on my Patreon. That support is really helpful for me. It kind of helps offset my costs in doing a lot of this stuff. And just taking that extra step, or, reaching out and offering to help that way is, it means a lot to me. And, so for my Patreon, if you guys want to check it out, feel free. You can go to patreon.com/finallyfasting. I do have a specific tier where we have a private Discord where we talk about fasting, and it's also in conjunction with my other, channel that I have. I have a tech channel that I've been running for a couple of years, but we all are in that same Discord, and we kind of just discuss what's going on with our fasts. People get updates on what's going on with me for that specific day. But again, feel free either way for you guys to come in here and just like and comment and be supportive and be encouraging. Means a lot to me. I know a lot of people comment and say they're inspired and motivated, and I'm glad I can do that for you, and I hope I can continue to do so. But that's it. Tomorrow I am breaking another fast, and you'll have another episode tomorrow of Break Fast, the prior episode, but we'll get into it then. Otherwise, that's all I got for today. Hopefully this helped, and it was helpful for you. I'm not the best at closing these out. I'm sorry. Anyway, guys, have a good one. Take it easy. See you in the next one.